Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Viking Academy podcast. This week, we have Praveen Suthrum. He's a co-founder of a company called Next Services. Now, Praveen and I get into a conversation about GI specialists, not GI Joe, not the GI Joe doll with the Kung Fu grip. No, 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 no. We're talking about gastroenterology. So gastroenterology specialists. Okay. Now, what does this have to do with the Viking Academy? Well, I'm going to tell you. We talk about the mind, the body, and the spirit. And so in this episode, I wanted to dive down into more about the body. Now, Praveen is what they call him is a futurist, a healthcare futurist. He sees where things are going to change in the healthcare profession. Now, in this podcast, we cover off a whole bunch of things. First of all, I find out exactly what gastroenterology means. We talk about the shift that's coming with AI and what's happening to the healthcare profession. In addition, we talk to kind of the trends that are happening with individual patients like you and me. Like, what are we needing to do moving forward? Now, one of the things that happens in this podcast is it takes a little bit to get started. So stick with it because near the end, we hit the gold, the mother lode, the thing that really gets me super excited. I didn't realize until we got probably about near the middle part to the end of this podcast that Praveen and I are actually doing the same thing. The Viking Academy is completely in alignment with what he's doing in the gastroenterology sector of the profession, but in a way that you would never expect. It all comes down to the sacred and the seed of the self for you to actually completely embrace who you are. It's a beautiful finish to the podcast. I hope you enjoy it and follow through with it. As I had a lot of energy, and like you'll hear it in the podcast, but my energy builds up near the end, and it's like crescendoing just as we finish off. So there you go. So let's go get the podcast going. Okay, let's go explore. Praveen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Eric. It's nice to be here.
So where are you jettisoning in from, or where are you zooming in from?
I'm calling you from San Francisco.
Oh, so we're in the same time zone. This is
We
good.
are.
So we're straight. If you just look straight up, I'll be right above you.
I am.
Right on. So Praveen, I was very interested. I'm looking forward to this conversation with you because on the Viking Academy, we dive into the mind, the body, and the spirit, and we're kind of call it personal development wrapped in a Viking blanket, like to kind of envelop the Viking spirit of exploration and discovery. And I've been doing a lot in the body, or a lot in the mind, and a lot in the spirit, but we haven't had a lot of time to talk about the body. And when I had the opportunity to have you on the podcast to start talking about the shift that's happening in healthcare, I thought this is going to be great. So could you maybe just explain to me the gist of the book that you did? It's called The Shift: How Digital Innovation is Irreversibly Transforming Gastroenterology and Healthcare. I think for the readers, first of all, what is gastroenterology? And I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that right. And then let us know about the book and what spurred you on to write it.
Sure. So it's gastroenterology. It's essentially digestive health, right? But the book is not about how to get better as far as your digestive health is concerned. In fact, it's for the industry of gastroenterology that's helping patients avoid colon cancer and get better in terms of their digestive health. That is what GI doctors or gastroenterologists do. But the book has broad applicability for all of healthcare because this shift, which is driven by AI and other exponential or advanced technologies, is going to affect not just gastroenterology, not just healthcare, but pretty much all industries. And this book is, number one, it puts together the shift which is occurring, so from a technology standpoint, from a business standpoint, and how to take advantage of it. But also it deals with the mindset shift that the industry has to go through in order to get off this survival mode and actually take advantage of this and use the disruption which is happening across the board as the very tool to disrupt itself and keep going forward. So that's the big premise. What I've also done is I interviewed several experts in the GI field, and these are physicians, these are scientists, these are innovators who are building devices, equipment, wearables, software, apps. There's so much of innovation happening in gastroenterology. It also puts together these 30 plus different interviews and then uses their voice also to help the reader understand where everything is going. So you may take, for example, we may have a generic book on how AI or exponential technologies are defining all industries, and then you may have a healthcare book. But this specific book is going so deep into one single medical specialty that when you go deep enough, you're going to find it reflect all the trends which are going on all around us. And when you go that far deep into one specialty, you're going to somehow understand all the trends which are affecting all of us societally, business-wise, and also for any particular industry. In this case, that happens to be healthcare and gastroenterology.
So you said a couple of things here that resonate a lot with me. So I'm a CPA by trade. So I was a CPA, and then I started a consulting firm called the Accountant Success Formula. So I wanted to serve, shall we say, the end patient, being the business owner, but I knew that there was something wrong with the actual profession. And then I was always looking forward to the future, to saying, like, we need to start moving the profession this way so we can start taking care of our clients, which in your case would be patients. And so I resonate with you on that, where this book is focused on the profession, but not only the profession, but GI specialists specifically, saying, here's what you need to look at. But that's the first thing. The second thing is that you mentioned that as you went deep into that, the same way when I've gone deep into, say, working with the accounting profession, you start seeing this ripple effect that's happening across all different sectors, and this whole change. And so one of the things that I noticed is, and you mentioned it a lot in here, and in your write-up, they called you a healthcare futurist, which I loved, by the way. I think that's awesome, because you're looking forward, and it's this proactive approach to life. And from a business perspective, the traditional accounting world is always like, oh, it's all about the past, the past, the past. And they're just fixing the past or just putting a band-aid on the past. I kind of liken that to healthcare. It's always been about, oh, if you have a problem, come and see us. Now the whole shift is moving away, where everybody's starting to go, no, let's be proactive with our health. Let's be proactive with our financial well-being. Let's be proactive with our mental health. And so everybody's moving forward and saying, let's look at this better future, and how can we lean into that instead of just being reactive? And I'm assuming that's the trend that you've seen in the healthcare, especially in the GI area, that it's always been a reactive instead of a proactive approach.
So there are two angles to this, Eric. Like, so the book itself, when you say patients, it's not exactly patients, it's the physicians and the industry that is serving the patients that is of concern. That's as far as the book is concerned, right?
Yeah, and that's the same way the accountant, that's what I'm saying, is I worked with the accountants to help them so they could help their business owner clients. Like, so I'm helping the profession. So your book is focused on the professional side. Yeah, yeah.
Now your question is on the future, or why to look at the future. Can you repeat your question again?
Well, what I'm just seeing is you're seeing a trend across all the healthcare, and maybe we'll dive a little bit deeper into this, because I'd like to understand kind of the ethos of the book, because I haven't read it. Not being a GI specialist, I wasn't quite sure where it would fall into. So when you're talking about the future, I see all of the people that are using these specialists. People are wanting forward thinking. They're wanting to be proactive with their health. What specifically in the book are you showing the GI specialists to embrace, to be more proactive versus reactive?
Okay. Yeah, let's unpack this a little bit. Like, so one is the vast majority of the patients, and I'm going to go beyond the book and reflect on your question a little bit more widely. To begin with, the vast majority of the patients are not proactive. They are reactive. We are not habituated to going to a doctor unless there's a symptom that's bothering us and we want to make the symptom go away. So most of the people are really not proactive. That's let's start there. So now the industry that serves the mainstream patient care and the mainstream healthcare is also not proactive. It is a very reactive system. So it's not like when you go to a physician, we're talking about diet and we're talking about well-being, we're talking about mindfulness. That hardly is the case. What happens in most of the physician-patient interactions is there's a rush. The consultations are very short because the doctor does not have time, because there is so much of administrative burden, so much of technological burden, and the patient really doesn't get enough of the physician to have an in-depth conversation about his or her health. Now, if you examine this issue a little bit more deeply as to why the physician does not have time, especially in the US, like, so most of the audience that the book outlines and works with or is for are based in the US. Now, if you look at the healthcare system in the US and if you look at the GI profession in the US, they're just very busy. They're moving from the consultation room to the surgery center, they're moving to the hospital, and then they have home to take care of. So it's a very, very stressful profession, very stressful profession. And when you look at this one specialty, because of the prevalence of colon cancer in this country, the guidelines that have come forth, a bulk of the profession relies on screening colonoscopy as one of the methodologies, like from to take care of these patients. And when you look at procedures like screening colonoscopy, what's happening is with the digital revolution, these procedures are getting disrupted. Like, so, for example, when there's a new technology such as liquid biopsy, which is with a blood test, one is able to detect 50 different types of cancers, not just colon cancer, and that's coming. We don't know whether it's coming 3 years from now, 5 years from now, but that day is soon going to be a reality. There are tests such as stool DNA tests and stool RNA tests. You send your stool sample, and the lab does a DNA test or an RNA test. So when you do this, when these tests are, or these options are available, the mainstream gastroenterologists are getting disrupted or would get disrupted or be overwhelmed. Like, there'll be so much of detection of colon cancer that they would be overwhelmed in their surgery centers as to, oh, like, how do we now do procedures on so many and affirm or not affirm that they have colon cancer. So whichever way you look at it, there is disruption to the norm on the horizon. Like, life cannot continue the way it has in the last 10 years, 15 years. It won't continue that way. Like, so, and now when this disruption is coming, so that's one angle. The other angle is the costs are rising. There's advent of private equity in this space and in many other medical specialties, and private equity has its own direction. Like, so they invest money and they need to get their return within a 3 to 7 year time frame, an average of 5, and then they're going to exit and it's going to move on to another private equity partner. So there's a lot of, because of consolidation, there's also a lot of business pressure on medical doctors. So we've talked about technological shifts and clinical shifts. We're now talking about the business shifts. and the shifts or the pressure because of business reasons. So there are administrators, there are CEOs, and they are under targets. They are under pressure to perform and deliver business results because of the huge investment that's been made in some of these specialties. And even if one is not under the umbrella of private equity, you're still associated with a hospital. If one is not associated with a hospital, you even if it's a solo practitioner, still the costs are rising across the board. Labor is hard to come by, and it is very, very expensive to sustain, your medical practice. So there's a significant revenue pressure and cost pressure. So I can't see patients as a physician, one can't see a patient like the old days where you're able to spend maybe half an hour with a patient and then really unpack whatever is going on with the patient. So people don't have time. It's in and out 5 minutes, 7 minutes, maybe at best 15 minutes, and you're out. So there is that pressure. Now, added to all this, the physician community, amongst all other professions, especially in the US, uh, is under significant psychological stress. They see death all the time, and you have sickness all around, and at any given time there are many, many regulators watching every move that you make. It's a highly litigious profession. There are medical legal issues, and you're under emotional and psychological pressure all the time. So there's a mindset shift which needs to occur. The physicians, it's a less known fact, but has one of the highest suicide rates in any profession. So when you look at all this, and then when you see this disruption on the horizon, we talked about liquid biopsy, digitization, which is occurring. We talked about AI. AI is coming across all industries. There's robotics. There is autonomous vehicles. There are sensors. There's medical disruption happening on the medical equipment side. So there's a lot of disruption that's coming. My premise and my appeal to the healthcare industry is that all of us have gotten into this space for a higher purpose and a higher reason. It's not because most people, they don't end up becoming doctors or get into healthcare just because they need to make money. That's very few. I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. It's just what it is. Many people are in healthcare because they've been driven by a higher calling, a higher purpose, and they want to be of service to other human beings out there, and that's why they got in. But that whole purpose is lost and it's forgotten. They've completely forgotten why they became doctors in the first place. So my premise and appeal is the following: is that disruption is occurring, and things are getting disrupted and are going to be disrupted anyways. So now, can you use this as an opportunity to tackle the systemic issues that you have been bothered by for so many years and maybe even decades? And so it's that leadership, it's that appeal for leading this, even as a revolution, and that's what I'm calling out for this book. And I always tell people that the digital and the business is my shop front, but what we are actually dealing with is mindset, and it's leadership. We may have the digital and the business reasons to step ahead, with this, but what actually drives us and moves our blood to really make big changes is a shift in mindset that needs to occur.
And I think that's where I was talking about from the beginning there. Is I'm sensing a change and a shift in people all over the place, not just at the professional level, but the consumer level, shall we call it the patient level.
Hmm.
This movement towards a bigger why. Like we need that really compelling future why, and that compels us to move forward. And everything you were talking about there about what's happened with in the medical profession was tugging at my heartstrings for a couple of different reasons. One, I personally felt it when I was a practicing CPA. So I call myself a recovered accountant. Okay.
Mhm.
So I haven't done a tax return in over 10 years, right? It's great. I love it because it was becoming over regulated, over controlled, over bureaucratic, and was crushing us. And it's like, just like with the doctors, clients come in, you got to do quickly, spin them around, boom, and do it as fast as you can. You have all these pressures. Right now, it's not as life and death, literally not as life and death when the accounting profession is the medical profession, but I can feel that from my past, right? For understanding that from a business perspective. But I also have a lot of friends in the medical profession that are burnt out, stressed out. A good friend of mine, his wife, she's gone through so much, and she's told me what's happened in the hospitals, and I'm like shaking my head, going, "What's going on here?" And so you've got this groundswell of problems within these professions. You've also got a groundswell of a consumer base, and call it the patient's consumer base, where they're starting to look forward. They're starting to shift towards future proactive healthcare. Like there's a big movement, like this clinics are popping up left, right, and center all over North America, which is always proactive healthcare. And I mean, people are starting to get onto that. Um, so I feel this swell that's happening around the whole every level, like every level of person. There's this movement towards we need to start taking better care of ourselves. And the interesting part, and I love your take on this, is where I see this despondency in these professions that have been the traditional grind them out and just stressful out, like all the things you said about with the medical profession. And people after COVID, especially after COVID, they're like, forget it. I'm not going into that profession anymore. And they've left these professions in droves. Like you're seeing this bleed of drain brain that just left the accounting profession. And we do not have anybody coming back in. I'm not sure if it's the same way in the healthcare profession. Okay, you're nodding, so that means a yes. So people are not coming back in. But I think the convergence here is that you have this AI technology that's going to be able to infill and take away a lot of that administrative, painful stuff that can free us up to start providing that why again. Like what you said, like the reason why people get into healthcare profession, they really want to help somebody. And so here's this AI is coming in, and a lot of people are saying, oh, it's going to be catastrophic. All these jobs are going to be lost and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, let's lean into this. This is a great opportunity to free us up from the mundane and from the bureaucratic layers to actually do what we were here to do, which is take care of people.
Yes, uh, I agree with you.
So that's the ethos of the book. That's the premise of what you're talking about, is getting the profession to lean into it. How much positive reception have you received on this from the professional side? Because I
Yeah,
personally have found a ton of resistance from the traditional accounting world. Like that's just one of my businesses, by the way. I've got multiple other businesses, but what have you felt in terms of reception on the professional side?
quite a bit actually. Quite a bit. The book actually builds on a program called the GI Mastermind that I'd started when COVID had gotten started. And that program circles around three aspects: digital business and leadership, same thing as in the book. And these are leaders in gastroenterology, heading large and small organizations, but they're all trying to build the future on their terms. And in that mastermind program, we would have several conversations about the future, several conversations about the future. And there is such openness, at least amongst this segment of the industry, to build and lead the future on their terms, that it is very impressive. And since the launch of the book, like I'm just back last week after attending a meeting with the American College of Gastroenterology. The society had organized an AI in GI summit. It's the first one, an AI in gastroenterology summit. The objective is to publish a white paper, and there were several experts, innovators physicians and physician scientists from across the field who were there. The openness to agree and disagree and explore the future in terms of AI, to observe that was amazing. It was really amazing. People were listening, a lot more than like, arguing and saying, "Hey, this is my point," or "This is." It wasn't that. It was about everyone exploring and saying that, "Hey, like we're in this together, and we may not have all the answers, but at least we need to ask the right questions, and we need to figure this out for the well-being of the industry, for not just patients alone, but also the physicians who are serving the patients, and for the future generations of physicians who are going to come into this future." So I've seen a lot of openness. I've also seen openness with other GI societies. Like, so I'm working with the American Gastroenterological Association, AGA, which is another uh, GI society. And very interestingly, our conversations have led up to a series of collaborations that are going to happen this year. That is on the lines of, let's collectively work towards shifting the mindset of the industry. So to answer your question, there is openness, yes.
So here's a personal question.
Mhm.
What what got you into this um cause? Like what spurred you to go into this arena, and what is it that drives you to move this forward?
Yeah, yeah. To begin with, I'm not a clinician or a physician. I don't come from this background. I come from a technology and a business background. Now, as a 21-year-old, I was diagnosed with hypertension. And it so happened that I happened to pop a pill for the next 21 years. And with the aid of certain cardiologists and so on, and correction in lifestyle, under very careful medical guidance, they tapered my pill, and then I it was kind of reversing the symptoms that led up to that condition. So there's a very personal affiliation to the medical community, and what they can do, and what they cannot do. So as a patient, I've experienced healthcare system up close. I became curious. My initial premise was, patients, if they get access to healthcare, then healthcare is going to be better. Later, my premise was, oh, like, there needs to be better education, and there needs to be also wellness focus. It can't all be about sick care. Healthcare needs to be better. It needs to be about healing. And then it finally, it just became very, very simple stuff. It became very apparent and obvious that the two principal actors in the healthcare system are patients and physicians. So if physicians, being the principal actors, are not ready or geared up to leading and embracing, and they're lost in burnout and stress and all these issues and administrative hassles, then how are they going to really take care of patients? And then everybody suffers. So this has been the primary driver for many years. So on the basis of this, I started a business along with other colleagues, and it's called Next Services. And that has two angles to it. One is back office administration, which is now being transformed by AI and automations. And then software development. So there are products such as an endoscopy report writer, an electronic health record software, and we've also built software for other companies, other healthcare organizations. So the work with Next Services as an entrepreneur once again gave me very direct perspective of the industry of the field of the nitty-gritties of everyday work that has to happen to make sure that healthcare keeps running. So, these were initial foundations. And where I have arrived, right now is what actually the underlying aspect to all of this is its mindset. So it's more important than anything else, more than business reasons, more than technological reasons. It's actually mindset. And if the mindset can shift, then a change is possible. And along the way, during COVID, I trained as a yoga teacher. So, and a yoga for cancer teacher. So it gave me very unique insight into disease, and how disease occurs and how it can be reversed, not just through movement, but like in terms of breath, in terms of shifting mind and little bit understanding as to what patterns do and how those patterns, mental patterns and emotional patterns, can multiply and lead up to disease of the physical body. I saw it firsthand. I've also been involved in disease reversal startup, and once again started during the pandemic. It gave me very upfront and insight into medical conditions of various people, both in US and in India. So all these experiences have led up to the point where I am with things right now is, as far as healthcare is concerned, it's so important for healthcare now, especially in the age of AI, to reconnect back with your core purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why? And reconnecting with that purpose and bringing back the sacred into the profession, and supporting it and moving forward in a much more conscious manner. That is so key, because whatever you do, if it's not plugged in back into the sacredness of it or your core purpose and why, when it gets disrupted by AI, you won't be able to handle the disruption, because you're going to go through in your own emotional whirlwind, and you won't be able to be steady through the disruption, unlearn and relearn and keep moving forward. So you got to be so grounded and rooted in your why. And like, so if I have to now summarize my whole response to your question, I think just helping people, not just in healthcare, but helping people, period. Uh, Exploring and having an experiential insight into their inner being, and plugging back in, so that all your work or anything that you do in the outer world has meaning that's relevant to you, not for somebody else, but not to you. So let me pause here, but yeah.
For anybody that's watching the video, you probably can't see me, but my head's moving up and down like a bobblehead doll. I'm just like, yeah, yeah. And then you said reconnect to the sacred. I'm giving them big thumbs up and, rock and roll signals here. This is Praveen, you're hitting exactly on the entire ethos of the Viking Academy. Like this, the exploring the mind, the body, and spirit, but being connected to that source, that sacred, that inner knowing, that why, that purpose, the reason. I believe that the universe made us all for a reason, but we're the only species on the planet that doesn't know why we're here.
Mm.
Right. And that's part of that's part of the joy and the fun of it, is that we get to go explore and discover who we are. And that's the adventure. Like that's the joy that the universe has given us, the gods have given us, is like, here's your playground. Go figure out who you are and why you're here. And everything you're talking about is resonating with me, because I can see it even from, like, let's go fully practical. If you're rooted with knowing, if you're rooted in the seat of the self, and you are connected with your creator and your being, you know that everything that comes at you from the outside world is for you, not against you. So the AI that comes forth, you go, oh, Well, why did the creator put this in front of me? How can I use this as a tool to serve others more? And so you're completely grounded in self and being able to use the external that comes at you as tools and gifts from the gods, shall we say, to be able to fulfill your why here on the planet. If you're not rooted in the self, which is what you're saying, we're going to get spun around in circles because now we're caught up in the world of the 10,000 things, right? As the Tao. I love the Tao, and it's like, you get caught up in 10,000 things. It's just the world's got too much complexity to it. And if you're too focused on the self, the small self, me, myself, and I, the little self, instead of rooted in the sacred, which I love how you said that, you're going to get spun around by what's coming. And so
Mm.
that's your underlying message. And that's ultimately the message I'm bringing forward with the Viking Academy.
Yeah, no, that is my when I'm with the scientific community, everyone worries about being ridiculed by each other, by peers, and all of that, right? So we think um, it's not cool to use words like sacred or consciousness or like all of this, but everyone individually I know is getting there. So we have this self with our friends and at home, and then we present this weird self at work and in our professions. But given where AI is taking the world and where we are arriving, I think sacred is cool again. Like so, so it's okay. I think it's important to talk about it, and important to be whoever you are and whatever whatever you represent, and however the life makes meaning for you. And to talk about this because it's now us versus AI too. Like so we if you don't do that, and if you don't bring forth your humanness, if you're not more human, then what use are you? Like, then, AI is much more empathetic, is able to do most of the tasks, is very smart, very analytical, and it's getting better and better every day. So then what do I do with other human beings? Like, so if you're not human, and healthcare once again is such a profession that it demands you to be more human. But doctors, to begin with, were healers.
Yes.
They've just forgotten the healing aspect of their profession. And yeah, go ahead. I know you want to say
No,
something.
no, this is fantastic. Like it took us a bit to warm up into this podcast, but now we're in the meat. Now we're in the fun stuff here for me. This is where that raising level of consciousness, and
Hmm.
I remember reading about it for years. So I've been actively reading and studying spirituality for the last 17 years. I'm a recovered alcoholic, so I had my crash, and then I focused on, and then that's a whole recovery movement. It's about finding your higher power, connecting to your higher power. So I've read the Bhagavad Gita, Nisargadatta Maharaj. I've, the Quran, the Bible, the 12 step, all of them. And they all point to the same, they're all pointing to the same kind of ethos, which is there is a divinity within each one of us that if you go inward and you trust it and you follow it, it will give you that divining rod showing you where to go and how you, and when you have that purpose. And for me, when I have that purpose and like seated in the sense of the big self, the big S self, when I'm seated in this seat of self, and I'm trusting and I'm asking for guidance, whatever comes at me externally are all just gifts and or tools that I'm supposed to use to help serve others more. And life becomes more joyful. It's funny, the less I think about me, the more I think about others, the more joy I have. The more I think about what does the gods have in store for me. That's another word. Anybody brings up the word God, instantly there's they're talking about religion again. I'm not talking about religion, folks. I'm talking about that spirituality, that consciousness, as Praveen said, that sacred that's in us. And it's inside of every single one of us. That seed is there. It's just, if you and more people are starting to wake up to that because they realize the external world is just it's crazy. Like, it's nuts. Like, there's so much going on. It's too much to handle. And so I'm like, yes, I totally hear you. And so you're doing your specific purpose in this niche with gastrointestinal GI specialists, showing them how to reconnect with self and their purpose and their why. And this is the other thing I really love, and I wouldn't mind your thoughts on this, is that I see not only is it stirring within us, but it's coming from without us as well. From the outside, AI is coming in to wake us up. AI is actually helping us become more human by going, oh, we better wake up and actually start bringing more, as you said, bring more of our humanness to the table, because this AI is going to take away all of that mundane stuff that was keeping us from connecting with others.
Not just that, AI is actually better than many humans,
Oh
right?
yeah, but oh yeah, hands down. Yeah, we're humans are.
So it's
So
more
I've had multiple
empathetic.
businesses. You got if you have any employees, you know their employees are inconsistent, unreliable, and unpredictable, like because they're human, right? But AI isn't.
And it's also a conversation with one of the generative AI tools, and you have a conversation about a very personal topic, it is going to be empathetic. It won't judge you. AI will not judge you and say, oh, like, you're white, you're brown, you're black. It doesn't care. It's not going to judge you on, what your orientation is. It's not going to judge you on which country you're from. It's not going to judge you based on your accent. It's not going to judge you based on whether you're fat or tall or thin or short. It really doesn't matter. So there's no layer of it won't there's a acceptance as far as AI is concerned. So now if you're in any profession, you got to compete with that, right? Especially with AI. AI is able to lead and give me direction. So why do I need a leader who is artificial, who is above the surface, who is very transactional? So I need depth. I need somebody to be more human. So leaders must embrace and just be that more human aspect of themselves and not hesitate to go there.
I love that because I remember when I was first coming up through the CPA profession, and it was all about trying to be perfect, correct, and right, and being like the professional that had all the right answers and all the rest of that. And that was so stressful back then. And now as it's getting more and more into the AI, the stress is even worse because you're human. You realizing you've got these, you've got blind spots in certain things. You've got prejudices, right? You can't necessarily see things. And so all of a sudden AI comes in and it's more perfect than us in those areas. It's like, well, then where am I left with? Well,
Mm.
you're left with your personality and connecting with someone on a human level and actually being empathetic with what they have as a problem. And sometimes all the patient or the client you have, they just need to be heard. And they need to talk to someone who believes and understands and is empathetic with them. Then it's like, okay, now let's go find the answer. You can turn to AI and AI will give us the more, shall we call it, technically correct answer that will work, but then you can take that and then deliver it to the patient in a human way, in your own individual way. So you don't have to compete with all the other professionals because you can just be you. And that's the value
Mhm.
you're actually bringing to the table. And I think that for me is the most beautiful thing about this consciousness, this waking up that I've experienced is like who I am is actually what the universe wants me to be. So it wants me to be
Mm.
more Eric. It wants Praveen to be more Praveen because that's what it made you for, is to be you. And that's what everybody was made for, to be them. So it's freeing us up to be more of ourselves. I love it.
Awesome.
I love it. Man, Praveen, there was one more thing I was going to ask you. So there was one, you co-founded another company called Novo Liver. And and
Right.
and that focused, and I remember it said it focuses on reversing fatty liver disease through lifestyle changes. So how does the fatty liver, like how does fatty liver disease, is that connected with alcoholism? Because I always know that for the alcoholic, if they go, you can get, your liver can just turn. Is that the same thing or is that a different thing?
No, so it's non-alcoholic fatty liver. It's
Okay.
yeah, it used to be called NAFLD. Currently, it's called MAFLD. Like so, it's metabolic. So more than non-alcoholic, they've removed the whole nomenclature from non-alcoholic. But yeah, that startup is no longer in existence.
Okay.
But when it was like so, we used to work with people with fatty liver, people with NASH, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, and also even cirrhosis. And using lifestyle methods and lifestyle correction, we used to see people reverse these conditions. They
Okay.
would get better. They would very clearly get better.
All right. Well, I found a solution to fixing that fatty liver from the alcoholic side is you just stop drinking the bloody alcohol. That really helped. That talk about a lifestyle change, that makes a big difference. Praveen, the other funny thing is that, the universe, when you're really open, I see the universe sending me signs and signals all the time. I sit down and I look and I realize I actually have a colon screening reminder right here on my desk
There you
telling
go.
me to go in for my fit. So I'm got that at-home fecal immunochemical test. That's what you were talking about before with but it was funny because we were having this conversation and I turn to look on my desk and I go, "Oh, there's the form right there." Well, if that isn't the universe hitting me over the head going, "You better go get this done, Eric." And say, "Yeah, got to
Yeah.
do that." Um, Praveen, this was awesome. I love what you're doing. I love the reasons why, and I just love seeing the interconnectivity of all these things coming together. So, keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to keep doing what I can on the professional side, on the accountants. You keep doing what you're saying on the GI specialist side, and hopefully our paths can cross again and we can catch up again later in the future.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Eric. This was fun.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, Vikings, keep exploring.
Thanks for listening to the Viking Academy podcast. Make sure to leave us your honest feedback by leaving a review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode.